Emo Reviews here with another One Piece chapter review. Now, guys, I know, it's been a while since our very last One Piece chapter review, but we're back. We're back. It's been a long year, but and despite everything, we are back and we're doing what we do best, and that's talk about One Piece. So let's just get right into it. And this week we're talking about One Piece chapter 1043. Let's face death together. Yeah, so this chapter picks right back up where the last one ended. Luffy getting hit by Kaido, obviously after the distraction from the guy from CP0. And Kaido still has the look of despair on his face. He's actually having fun fighting Luffy. But the same thing happened that happened when he fought Odin. That old lady interfered and she distracted Odin, and that's how Kaido beat Odin. And obviously, we know what he did to that old lady. Same thing happens now. He's actually having fun fighting Luffy, and then the guy from CP0 happened. Just seeing the scene that reminds me of Luffy versus Mihawk at Marineford. There's that scene where Hawkeye is targeting Luffy and he sends Luffy flying, and then Luffy, I guess, decides that, you know what, I'm not going to run anymore, so I'm going to face this guy. And Luffy launches his hands behind him to do a bazooka, and Luffy gets a quick vision in his head, maybe, future sight, but he sort of sees the future and, that his hand is going to be cut if he actually lets his bazooka go. So he decides to hit the ground in front of him rather than launching it directly at Mihawk. This scene just makes me feel like, or at least shows me the difference between Luffy's attacks and Kaido's attacks. Like in the heat of battle, it seems that Luffy has the ability to change his mind or change the trajectory of his attacks, whereas Kaido, for the second time we've seen this, cannot do that. It happened with Odin, and it happened right here with Luffy again. And obviously it was very close, but I feel like if it was Luffy and he noticed that, okay, Kaido's distracted, I don't want to win this way, he could probably switch or change the trajectory, the direction of his attack. But it seems that Kaido is just so brute that he is unable to stop his attacks mid-attack because it's just so much power behind it. But CP0, man, CP0, what are you doing? Even when he got the actual order to attack or eliminate Luffy from his higher-ups, he had mentioned it himself that, it's like nearly impossible to interfere with Kaido's fight. But he still went ahead and did it, knowing the consequences. And when you read this chapter, it's so comical, so funny. Like, the deed is done. He already distracted Luffy. Kaido knocked Luffy out. And he's just standing there. He's just standing there. And he tips off his hat like, well, I've lived a long, happy life. It all ends today. And it's like he, at that moment, just accepted his death, accepted the fact that, yeah, time to die. And Kaido was like, so you're prepared for what happens next? And he just stands there like, yep, I think I am. And I know One Piece have had, for the length of time that it has been running, have had a lot of fake deaths. Like someone supposedly dies on screen, but later on they come back. But this guy from CP0 is dead. We could all unanimously agree that he is dead. We all know what happened to the old lady that distracted Odin when Kaido fought Odin, and Kaido made sure that he killed her. And I know Kaido has questionable, I guess, times where he supposedly kills people, but it never happened. Kinemon, for instance. But we could all agree that this guy from CP0 is, in fact, dead. There's no way. Kaido is so pissed. There's no way he's alive. So after Kaido deals with that member from CP0, the next few pages is literally Kaido on a rampage. He crashes down and he's just upset. And funny thing, he asks for Momonosuke, but Momonosuke is outside pulling on the clouds, but Kaido went inside to look for Momonosuke. You would think someone like Kaido's haki would be so strong that he could sense that Momonosuke is outside, but he came inside the dome. you could make an argument that Momonosuke doesn't have much haki, so it's hard for Kaido to sense him, but Momonosuke was fighting you outside. He never ran inside. And he's a big dragon, so it's hard for you to miss him. So I found it funny that the first thing he came inside and said was, "Where's your leader? Where's Momonosuke?" But Momonosuke is outside, and you should know this. And there's a scene there where Kawamatsu, is wishing that they were not up in the sky because there's so much fire in the castle. And a few videos back, I had mentioned that, it seems that everyone in this arc has fire attacks. So there's only so much that this castle could take, it's only so much fire attacks. But here's Kaido here again on another rampage, and he's using Boro breath all over the place. So yeah, this gives you an idea of how much time that this castle really has left. I think the castle will incinerate before it even hits the floor. Last chapter, Kin and Law had mentioned that they were out of strength, they had no more willpower left. So if it was Kaido that came down from the roof, there's nothing that they could do. But this chapter, we see that we had a dialogue earlier where Law said that Luffy's voice is gone. If we could reference this to what Kobe had said in Marineford, when there are a lot of people dying around him, he referred to their voices are disappearing. So in a similar sense, here, it's referring to the fact that Luffy is supposedly dead. So Luffy would have been, the only one capable of standing against Kaido besides these two. So if Luffy is out, they have to step up and they have to face him. So Trafalgar and Kid are like, you know what, let's just get up and fight. We're not going to go out without a peep. And so they're getting ready, they're getting up. We see Kid forming his metal arm. Law has a sword in hand, and they're getting ready to face Kaido. Because these two are the two strongest that are left. I put these two firmly ahead of Marco simply because they took care of Big Mom. So these two are the two strongest fighters left. So they have to get up. If they sit down and let Kaido do what he has to do, then obviously the Alliance stand no chance at all. But I highly doubt that these two will get to face Kaido again ever, simply because of what happens to the end of the chapter, what everyone is going crazy about. So toward the end of the chapter, we have some dialogue with Momonosuke and Yamato, where Momonosuke is thinking to himself that Luffy got defeated. Luffy is dead facing against Kaido, and Luffy was super strong. I am super weak. There's nothing I could do. I cannot make a difference right now. So the best thing for me to do is probably just give up. Let it all in here. We tried, but we lost. Where Yamato is like, what sort of survival is that, surrendering to Kaido, only to return to slavery and counting down the days until you eventually die? Which is why we get the title of this chapter. Yamato goes on to tell him that, if you're going to surrender, if you're going to let everything that we would have done for these past 20 years go to waste, at least let's face death together. The final scene of the chapter ends with some words from Zunisha. So Zunisha starts to speak to Momonosuke, and I'll just read it from the chapter, from the official translation. Zunisha says, "Momonosuke, I can hear it. How long has it been?" Momonosuke says, "What is it, Zunisha?" "I hear the drums of liberation. For the first time in 800 years, he is here." And Momonosuke asks, "Who is he?" "Joy Boy has returned." And in the very last panel of this chapter, we see Luffy with a grin on his face. Obviously, you can't see his eyes because it seems that his skin and hair are all sort of liquefying together. This could be Luffy's awakening. We don't know as yet. But the panels of Luffy leading up to this was just Luffy laying on the floor, KO. And there's a scene that says, "Ba-bump," So it could either be his heartbeat or, as Zunisha says, the drums of liberation. We'll see what the anime does with this. But yeah, Luffy is in the last panel just laying there with a grin on his face, and Zunisha, I guess, could sense it and says, "Joy Boy has returned." Obviously, Luffy being Joy Boy sparked a lot of controversy throughout the One Piece community. But I won't spend a lot of time extensively discussing this in this video. Perhaps in another video through the week, we could discuss what this will mean for the show moving forward, what it will mean for Luffy, and for us as the fans. But right now, we'll just briefly talk about, I guess, my initial thoughts, and maybe consider what some of the people in the community are saying about this. So this user on Reddit comments and says, "Honestly, I hope that Luffy being Joy Boy is not related to his fruit, which is a sort of legendary fruit / weapon that makes him the chosen one. It would ruin," I repeat, he said it would ruin one of the main messages of the manga. And the message, he says, is willpower will allow you to achieve whatever you want. So right off the bat, I totally disagree with this comment. And this is really the wide consensus of a lot of people in the community, because Luffy is Joy Boy. So they're essentially saying that Luffy was destined to be great or to make it where he was, and it had nothing to do with his willpower. But if you really are a fan of One Piece and have watched the show closely, Luffy's fruit did not bail him out in most of the situations that he found himself in. Obviously, you can make arguments that when he fought Doflamingo, that was truly a display of, hey, his devil fruit with his gear fought. His devil fruit was so powerful. But the very first arc of the show, where Luffy was in the water drowning and Shanks had to save him, Luffy devil fruit was not bailing him out of that situation. Shanks was there for Luffy. When you look at fights like Luffy versus Luffy took like 3 Rokyogans, and Luffy's had a lot of guts to get back up and fight Luffy because he wanted to save Robin. In Marineford, when he was trying to save Ace, there were so many times he was kicked around and was on the brink of death, to the point where he had to ask Ivankov to inject him with those steroid serums so that he could keep going. His devil fruit did not keep him going, but Luffy was going down time and time again. But his willpower, his guts as a main character, his desire to attain his goals is what has kept him in the show, not devil fruit, not destiny. One of the things Oda stresses throughout this show is inherited will. Not destiny, but inherited will. Even when Ace died, Whitebeard said, that even if you killed Ace, someone else will inherit Ace's will. That doesn't mean that someone will reincarnate as Ace, or Ace will reincarnate as someone else, but it's that someone would inherit Ace's will, or Ace's desire, Ace's goals. But that doesn't have to do with anything about anyone being a chosen one. So this whole notion that, Luffy is now somehow this chosen one, that who was written on this unbreakable stone, that this is what he'll do, he'll liberate the world. No, it has to do with Luffy's will and desire first, and then obviously you could add on the Joy Boy stuff after, but it's still Luffy being who he is. So that brings us to the end of our One Piece chapter review. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about Luffy being Joy Boy? Is this good for the story, bad for the story? Let us know down below. And if you liked the video, you want to see more content like this, you could drop me a like, subscribe, and as always guys, hope you have a wonderful day. Imusama, out.